Hello, Justin back here with the J&J Dynasty. This is for talk with your one quarterback PPR leagues, usually 12 teams. So we're going to talk about rookie running backs today that you may or may not want to draft. So basically, we'll start off with everybody knows. Yet Brees Hall is going to probably be the first overall pick in most drafts. So we don't really have to talk a whole lot about him, but I'll go over some of the things that people will want to know about him or like about him. Number one, he's fast. He does have breakaway speed. He scores more than a touchdown a game in college. 20 some straight weeks with a touchdown. He catches the ball. 3 downs. So he's going to get receptions and he's going to get touchdowns both ways. And he's going to load up the yardage. So he's going to be a top 10, easily, probably top 5 type running back. I see a lot of Alvin Kamara in him because nobody really hits him, but maybe a bigger version of Alvin Kamara, maybe a faster version of Alvin Kamara. So that's kind of who I kind of see some aspects in his game. So he's gonna be the first one. He's not gonna drop past pick 3. He's probably gonna be the first running back in the NFL draft. He should be the first running back in fantasy drafts. All right. So the next one, running back 2 here on the list, number 5, Kenneth Walker. I still think with him in one QB PPR leagues, he's going to be probably at least the 3rd pick off the board. 1 or 2, maybe 3. The way it's setting up right now with the NFL draft, the top 5 wide receivers, mix and match. Everybody has their favorite. Not one guy is standing up, heads up above the crowd, depending on where they land in the NFL draft. That's going to determine if one of these guys is going to get above Walker. Maybe if one of these guys gets up above Brees Hall. The only way I can see something like that is if you have, say, maybe Olave or London or, one of those 5. One of those guys lands in Green Bay with round 1 pick, right? I mean, that'll be monstrous. If Kansas City gets one of these guys, that's going to be a big time deal. So Walker is more of a 2-down back, so a lot less receiving production from him, although he's going to get the goal line carries. And he does have the breakaway speed. So not quite a complete back, but a very good first and second down back. Hopefully he can grow into receptions with the PPR and go from there. So those are the top 2 guys. I'm not the biggest fan of Walker. I think he's a little bit small, even though his BMI is at the right size parameters for what people are going to want. He's going to have the draft capital. He's got the speed. He's an early entry. One of the things I like about Brees Hall better is he's got the years, not just the year of the production in college. Although Walker came to the Big Ten and he outproduced what he did his first 2 years. So those are those guys. The next guy is Isaiah Spiller. I'm on and off and on and off of his boat, back and forth constantly. I mean, at the NFL or the combine time, he went from maybe the top running back and the top player in the draft, rookie draft, all the way down. Some people were probably saying mid-second round pick. Now he's climbing back up here. They have him on, and this is Fantasy Pros is what I'm referencing, the ECR. So it's expert consensus ranking, depending on how many of the experts voted. I think this one was somewhere around 35, 36 guys. So this is what their averages are, experts in the industry. And Spiller at 9, he's kind of like in the running back dead zone. I've noticed the last several years in the first round, from pick 6 to pick 9, you get what I call the running back dead zone, where the guys are taken who are overdrafted in fantasy because people need running backs. Keyshawn Vaughn, Zach Moss, who was the guy last year? Trey Sermon. I mean, in the last 2 years, you got 3 guys that were drafted mostly between 6 and 9, or 6 and before 10, we'll just say, between 5 and 10, right? Those guys are flat out busts. Boom, done. If you had Zach Moss, if you can get a 4th-round pick for him, you're doing well at this point. Same thing with Trey Sermon. Virtually cuttable, probably cuttable, depending on who you have for handcuffs, right? So those are those guys there. So Spiller would be running back 3 here. All right. So in round 2, I've got these broken down into rounds, and you can also see the tiers that they have them broken down on Fantasy Pros, right? So the next guy is Rashad White. He has a lot of statistical numbers that look good. I'm not a fan. I've seen and heard people talk about his pass catching prowess and also say that he can't protect the quarterback. It's tough to get on the NFL field and catch the passes if you're not going to protect the quarterback. He has size, he has some speed. He doesn't have the production that I would like to see, like I said, for a couple of years. This year he had a pretty good year. 3 years prior to that, and he's also coming out of the Pac-10, I believe, if I remember correctly. So not a big fan on him. So that's where, and he's running back 4, and he's all the way down at pick 14. So people are going to be reaching for him. People are going to be drafting him pick 10, 11, 12, 2-1, 2-2, right? Zamir White is the next running back 5 here. And everything I've heard about Zamir White, I like him as a guy. Don't like him as a prospect. I know that he was highly, highly, highly rated coming out of high school. Went to Georgia. The committee style blew out both knees. He had an exceptional 40 time at the combine, right? But look at his playing speed. Look at the film. If you want Leroy Horde, who is, and it was one of his great quotes, if you need 6 yards, I'll get you 3. If you need 3 yards, I'll get you 3. I mean, he just gets 3 yards. I mean, that's Zamir White. I told people right after the national championship game when he started getting some pub, I said he would be a great fullback. He has hands. He doesn't play with speed. He's not elusive. He's big, but he's not overly big. So he's just kind of there. I mean, it's not a guy that I'm going to go after. Ranked 16, running back 5 here, top of the tier. I mean, honestly, I would rather take a flyer on Brian Robinson, even though he has been in Alabama for almost a decade, right? He has more of the size, stats, profiles that you want, and he had he had less opportunity to produce, and when he had the opportunity, he produced, right? Not like Zamir. I mean, actually, I like James Cook, Delvin's brother, better than I like Zamir. They were in the same backfield. Put on some game tape, watch those two guys, see who stands out to you. All right. So Brian Robinson, I mean, the Alabama running back factory, he comes right out of there. He's the next in the list, long line. Who will be their guy next year, being drafted in this position? I mean, well, let's get back to what we were talking about. At the end of the year, people were talking about him being a 3rd or 4th round fantasy draft pick. Now Brian Robinson is all the way up here on 17, which would make him a mid to early 2nd round pick in one quarterback PPR. It's way too high. If I could get him at 210, 212, I mean, I'd like to get him 3-4. That's my price point on him. So he's going to be 100% like most of these guys, but even more so dependent upon his landing spot in the NFL to see if he gets any opportunity. I mean, a lot of these guys are very old because of the COVID the last 2 years. They got extra years, and they're only coming out now. So Brian Robinson is a guy who depending on landing spot, I'm going to be taking shots on getting a couple shares of him, right? We go down a little bit further. And Damien Pierce, apologize. We got Damien Pierce here at number 21, so he's going to be a back half of the 2nd round type of guy. Everybody likes his size. Everybody likes his speed. Everybody likes his catching ability. But he never did it in Florida. He never did it. If you don't do it in college, what are you going to do in the pros? Obviously, it depends on landing spot, usage, who else is in that backfield. I mean, I can see him being productive if he goes to Atlanta, right? If he goes to Houston, where he's going to get all the touches. You know, those are the two prime spots. Whichever of these running backs winds up in Atlanta and in Houston, those are the guys you're going to want to get. Pierce is supposed to be another guy, great guy from videos I've watched. You know, I've seen all kinds of things about people breaking him down, this, that, the other thing. I give him a 50-50 shot at succeeding, right, in the NFL, being somebody. He's not going to be a star. He's going to be a guy, and he's going to be got a 50-50 shot at being a guy, right? So that's pretty much him. I mean, he played in the SEC, so he's got all of the traits. He was a highly touted running back coming out of high school to Florida. So we got that. So let's keep scrolling down here. We're going to get into some dart throws here next, right? James Cook. He does not have the athletic profile that people want, right? He is just shooting from my hip. I think he's actually very close to Deebo Samuel size, right? Deebo Samuel might be thicker and bigger than him. James Cook is youngish yet. I mean, even though he is a senior, you know, but COVID has these guys pushed back. I noticed James Cook 2 years ago, not last year, but the year before. So, and I started telling people, this guy's going to come out, and I like this guy. I find out that he's a lot smaller than I thought he was. But like I said, you put the tape on between all three Georgia running backs. Go watch any game. James Cook is the one that jumps off the page. With his receiving ability, if somebody could use him, depending on where he gets drafted in the NFL, if somebody could use him like Percy Harvin or like Deebo Samuel, that would be phenomenal. You know, running back / wide receiver, because he lined up outside at Georgia. I mean, all the running backs did. So he is one guy that I really like. If I can get a shot at him in the late second, early third, he's one of the guys I'm going to take a shot on, obviously, depending on the landing situation. If he falls to the 5th round or something like that, there's only a couple teams that I want to see him on. San Francisco, I think that he would be phenomenal in San Francisco's offense. Apologize. That would also mean Miami's offense, you know, because coaching staff. So places like that, if he winds up being after a 3rd round pick, which it doesn't sound like, it sounds like people are going to be late second, early third in the NFL on James Cook, which means he's going to have the draft capital. He's not going to have the size measurables, but he's going to have the draft capital. So he's going to be take a chance on me. And the thing with him is he's a 50-50 guy also, but I think he's a 50-50 guy to be a star, right? He's going to be a guy in the NFL. Is he going to be a star? That's the question with him. And I think he has those traits. Jerome Ford, he's got a lot of these guys, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster. He's got all of the traits. Again, he was in Alabama, transferred out, had a breakout year, but he's also a senior again. He couldn't beat out any of the guys that are in the NFL. He left because Robinson was there, right? He knew where he was at. He made the move, and it paid off for him. You know, he had a heck of a season. So I do like him. I think that he can catch. He's got everything. Does he do anything exceptional? I don't know. I think he's going to be a guy. He has a shot at being a pretty good guy, depending on his landing spot, depending on the scheme. So but he's a dart throw. He's in the 3rd round. You know, pick 3 here is what it's saying in the 3rd round, 27th overall. At this point, you're hoping you got a guy who increases in value. You're looking for a guy with increase in value. So he's one of the guys that could easily increase in some value. I mean, if you draft him now and if he's worth, you know, a late second next year, and he's in a rotate, becomes a bit of a rotational player or carves out a niche in the backfield, that's what you want from him, right? So let's go on down the road a little bit for Tyler Batty. I've heard his name. I've seen a few videos. Doesn't interest me at all, right? Enough said. At best, he's going to be a guy, right? Kyron Williams, Notre Dame running back. Everybody loves his receiving. And I can't understand him and Isaiah Spiller kind of have both the same thing with the speed, right? It's crushed Kyron Williams because Williams is smaller and with the speed, right? But the funny thing is at Notre Dame, and I would have to check the schools, but he tore off a bunch of big runs. 4.6 speed, you shouldn't tear off those big runs in major colleges consistently, right? So I don't know if that's what his actual speed is or if he just plays much faster in the pads. I mean, same thing with Isaiah Spiller. That was one thing with him where I'm back and forth with Isaiah Spiller. I read something that the reason he didn't run at the combine is because he tweaked his quad or hamstring or something like that. And then he ran at his combine and posted a terrible number. Was that injury still there? Did they not just tell us more about that injury? I mean, that's why I'm wondering why Spiller's so high and Kyron Williams here is falling off the face of the earth. As you can see here, they're projecting him with the expert consensus rankings at Fantasy Pros here at pick 35. That would be 311 for him. And, I see him. He could easily be like a J.D. McKissick kind of guy, right? So at that point, if he's out there, draft him. I'll just say that, draft him. If he's a guy, he's a guy. If he's in a rotation, he's in a rotation. He could carve himself out as a nice niche as a third down running back. So that's that. We will move on a little bit more here, and we're almost done. We're into round 4, and now you're Kennedy Brooks. He really didn't stand out at Oklahoma. He really has not done anything. He was highly touted coming out of high school. I'm going to be avoiding him. If he starts showing something, if he's on the waiver wire, weeks 4 through 12, yeah, I'll look at him. Pick him up for $1. Maybe probably pick him up for free, really. Yeah. Running back 14, Jerron Early. He's not somebody that I'm going to be looking for, but in the draft, because the guy that I'm going to be targeting in this area is going to be Pierre Strong. I know he's coming from a small college. I know that he is a senior, but he was highly recruited. He was Mr. Football coming in high school, right? Wound up going to South Dakota State. He's put up numbers. Everybody wants to nag on the competition. Running back is one position where it doesn't really matter where you're at. Translates, right? He dominated at his level, where a couple of the other guys didn't dominate at their levels. All right, at least he dominated. He comes up to the combine and they said, well, yeah, he was competition. Well, he goes to the combine, he tests through the roof. Everybody's still saying, well, it's competition. Yeah, but he looked better than the competition. Guys that are ranked ahead of him here didn't look better than the competition. And Big East schools, how much of a difference is a Big East football school to whatever conference South Dakota State's in, right? If he goes to San Francisco with the speed of the outside zone run schemes, definitely a guy I'm going to be all over the boards. I think he can catch. I think he can run. He's got the long breakaway speed, pure strong. I put him down on my board. Let's go a little bit further. Haskins, to me, he's just a guy. I think that says enough about him. This video is getting a little bit long. Xavier Knight, I've heard good things about him. I watched several videos of his. He doesn't jump off the page to me. So Tyler Chandler, same thing. Like I said, when you're getting this deep, here's round 5. If you're even making picks in your round 5 draft, McCormick. My personal level is Pierce wrong. Once I get to him, you got Price. After that, nothing really interests me. I mean, these guys are going to get drafted. They're going to have shots. They're going to be special teams players when you're getting down this far. If you like their film, go after them. If they're from your college, from your conference, you saw film that you like on them. I haven't seen stuff that makes them stand out to me. There's not many running backs in this class. If you need to draft some guys, extra guys, draft a couple of these guys. Save your draft picks for next year when big dogs are coming through with the running backs. I mean, that's my advice to you. If nothing else, take your third, fourth, fifth round draft picks, trade them for an existing guy in the NFL. At least you know what you're getting at that point. Trade away that pick and upgrade your team to a running back 4 or 5, so that way you know where he stands, where he's going to do. Like Keyshawn Vaughn, Trey Sermon. Is even Trey Sermon the running back 2 or 3 in San Francisco, right? I mean, is he ahead of Wilson or behind him? I would think that he's probably behind Wilson. And that's not even saying that if they draft somebody, right? So these are the things that you got to figure out when the draft comes. But that's what I'm looking at with all those guys. So we'll just kind of wrap it up here. If you like it, if you think any of this information was good or liked any of the information that I put out here, obviously subscribe. Just starting up the channel. I'm going to start getting people to come in and talk to me also. So we're trying to do different videos. I'm going to try and do wide receivers next, tight ends. And that's going to be it, basically. Pre-draft. So I got a couple more videos coming later on this week prior to the NFL draft. So I'm just trying to ramp this up, get some videos out there about some of the players I like, don't like. The wide receiver is going to be a little bit more difficult and cumbersome, right? So I'm just going to use the same thing. It's pretty easy. Just do this and crank these things out, shoot from the hip, and go from there. But if you like what I'm saying, subscribe. If you don't, if you want to argue, that's fine. Put it down there. If you have a team, if you want me to go over your team, if you haven't want help with somebody who you need to cut maybe or want to keep or try to trade, requisite value. I've been playing and I've been doing pretty decently. I think I've built some nice teams. Last year, COVID crushed me, literally crushed me. But I look at a couple of the teams that I have, and I'm top 3 teams in a bunch of leagues. So, and it's not just me. I've grilled people who I know. So I think I'm a fair evaluator of talent, of situations, of upside, trading, things like that. So I blew up a team 2 years ago, and I'm top 3 in the league. I went from the worst to the first in less than 12 months. Wow. Worst to top 3, okay, in 12 months. So without any draft capital, I bought the team, and I had 5 picks in 2 years. I had a second, 2/3, a fourth, and a fifth for 2 years. And I blew up the team, which was a borderline team, and turned that into a top 3 team in the league in just over 12 months. So that's kind of the size of that. So if you want any things or my thoughts on something, put a comment below, like, subscribe, ring the bell if I'm going to go live. And hopefully I'll get a better camera, get some better sound equipment and things like that in the future. But look for some more videos. Until then, have a great day.